Feelings is episode 6 of season 6 of The Golden Girls. This is directed by Matthew Diamond, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And in general, I liked it. It is a good episode, but I feel like maybe they could have done more with Rose's story. I think seeing the aftermath would have been a bit more important. They could carry it on to another episode, but I doubt they do. It felt like they'd finish it here. But if they do continue it, fair enough, but I'm not expecting it. And I guess I'll talk about Rose first. Rose had gone to the dentist, and she felt like the dentist had been inappropriate and made some inappropriate noises towards her. She doesn't really want to confront him, though. She's really nervous about it, but the others encourage her. Blanche tries some psychology on her, which gave us a bit of comedy, and ultimately Rose goes back to the dentist. This is Dr. Norgan, played by George Wyner, and she asks him, "Did you do this? Were you inappropriate?" And he was so convincing. He said, "No, it was understandable. You were groggy from the medication. You maybe just misinterpreted something." I believed him. I genuinely believed him. And within a minute, that was turned around as Rose is about to have another procedure or whatever she's getting done, and he does it again. He's very inappropriate, and Rose jumps up, and honestly, that's kind of where we leave things. And I wanted to see the aftermath. I think they should have brought that in sooner. Maybe instead of Rose having doubt about it for the whole episode, it should have been very obvious from the very beginning, and we should have seen the aftermath, so the viewer can see the consequences of his actions, and also for the viewer to learn what it might look like if Rose makes a formal complaint, because I imagine that would be very scary, not knowing what's going to happen if this happens to you, and you don't know what the complaints procedure is going to be like. That could have been really beneficial. So it's an important topic, but I don't think they handled it as well as they could have done. Yes, encouraging Rose to confront him, but to be fair, though, confronting him directly, I don't know if that is the best approach, because of course he's going to deny it. So I don't know if this was handled in any way that's actually going to help anybody, but at the end of the day, it is highlighting that if this doesn't happen to you, you don't need to keep it quiet. You don't need to be scared into silence, because that's what was happening with Rose. She was too scared, she was silent about it, and then the others encouraged her. So I don't think they took the right approach, but I do applaud them for addressing an important topic. Then we come to Dorothy, and Dorothy is substituting for the whole term, and she's having to fail the star football player because he's just not doing the work, which is absolutely fair enough, but that means he can't play in this important game because he has to pass his classes. And the coach then turns up at the house. He's played by Robert Costanzo, to convince her to just let him pass the class so he can play, and she's not backing down. And then, surprisingly, Father O'Mara turns up, played by Frank Hamilton. He has some some great things to say about Blanche that he's heard through confession, which was rather amusing. And then Kevin turns up, played by Christopher Daniel Barnes, and tries to be nice to her, but Dorothy is saying that he has to pass the class, he has to do things properly, and well, it ended up in a way that I wasn't expecting. Dorothy ends up going to the hospital to read to him, which is not what I was expecting at all. She corrects some graffiti on his cast to shiitake mushrooms, which I found to be very, very funny, and then she begins reading to him, and it was rather sweet. And I feel like this is something teachers face. I don't think it's really much of an issue in the UK. We don't really have these big playoffs, championships. I don't know the language to use. I don't know anything about football at all, American or soccer football or any other sports. But basically, school sports in the UK are not really a big deal. They're nothing important. They don't lead to college scholarships or anything like that. I mean, they might for the occasional person, but certainly in the States, I imagine it's quite a big deal if somebody is not passing their classes because they're not doing the work. I could imagine teachers are pressured into just giving them a passing grade so they can play, and it could affect their scholarships, and it's their own fault for not doing the work. It's different if they're doing the work, but they're not getting it, they're not academic, they're not grasping it. That's different. That's not what's happening with Kevin, though. So I feel like it's probably quite relatable in some ways, and it's an interesting part of the episode. I quite liked it. I thought Dorothy's character here was really interesting, and ultimately it was a little bit more lighthearted. Maybe not for Kevin, but otherwise, compared with Rose's, it's otherwise quite a lighthearted part of the episode. I don't think they handled Rose's story very well, but again, I applaud them for at least getting a decent message out there. So it's not too bad. And all things considered, I thought Feelings was not a bad episode of The Golden Girls.